2015 is behind us, so it's time once again for the year-end roundup. This year there were a number of movies that disappointed me. I try not to have expectations, but that's just not realistic. So these are the movies that I watched in 2015 that I hoped would be better. And remember, this is just my opinion, although even that seems to be too much for some people. But hey, fuck them, right? A Tale of Three Cities starred Lau Ching-wan and Tang Wei, and was based on the true story of Jackie Chan's parents and their long journey from China to Hong Kong. It was co-written and directed by Mabel Chung. So what's the problem? The budget. It wasn't too small, it was too big. And as a consequence, so was the movie. What might have been a small, character-driven film became a bloated, historical, epic blockbuster wannabe. Several times the movie wanted us to wonder if either of the two main characters would survive some crisis or another, except that Jackie Chan exists, so obviously they did. Nobody wondered if the Titanic would sink. Speaking of sinking and bloat, The Crossing 1 and 2 were directed by John Woo and starred Zhang Ziyi, Huang Xiaoming, Tong Dawei, and Takeshi Kaneshiro, among others. The movie was also based on a true story and had a very large budget. So what went wrong? Exhaustive backstories, blockbuster aspirations, a 6-month gap between the release of Part 1 and Part 2, and the boat not even starting to sink until 3.5 hours into a 4-hour movie. I know it was wrong of me to be impatient about a real-life tragedy, but I was. I'm a terrible person. I know that because I wanted to watch Lazy Hazy Crazy just for the nudity. And there was a lot of nudity. Now, there was also some very good acting and some good cinematography. But there was also a script that couldn't really decide what kind of movie it wanted to be. After an hour of frankly exploitative sex and nudity, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, we suddenly get hijacked into an after-school special morality play about the resilience of female friendship and owning dogs. No, really. Yet, even in the middle of that, we get slow-motion upskirt shots. Lazy Hazy Crazy seems to describe the director's vision. Port of Call is also a movie about teenage prostitution. And it also turned out to be not the kind of movie I thought it was going to be. It's not a murder mystery or a police procedural. It's a slow, contemplative character study that spends a lot of time letting us get to know almost all the characters in the movie. I watched the shorter of the two versions, and even then I kind of felt like it dragged. How do you make a movie about teenage hookers dull? One answer may be to cast Charlene Choi as the teenage hooker. Herman Yao's Sarah was promoted as a daring Category 3 film, but I didn't see it that way. It's well directed, and it's an interesting story, and it's mostly well acted. But for me, Charlene Choi was a blank space in the middle of every scene that she's in. She's over 30, and if I have to see her attempt to play a teenager again, I'll lose my mind. I was really disappointed in this movie because I love Herman Yao and Simon Yam and Category 3 movies about teenage hookers. And there's a joke that I refuse to make on camera because I value my life as much as Albert Young likes his honorary degrees. Herman Yao also directed An Inspector Calls, a movie based on a British play. It's a broad criticism of class and industry, and it was a very interesting film. Because Chinese New Year movies are usually about families triumphing over adversity amidst lots of humor and zaniness. But the original story is about an unlikable family who do terrible things. I guess that's why the play and the movie have very different endings. I'd have enjoyed An Inspector Calls a lot more if it wasn't a Chinese New Year movie, and I mean that in terms of when it was released as well as the effect it probably had on the script. My biggest disappointment this year was Angel Whispers. It was directed by Carrie and it's a story about prostitutes. Am I the only one who's noticing a theme of prostitution and disappointment in this video? Never mind. I've been a fan of Carrie for like 25 years. So when I heard that she was going to direct a movie, I was really excited. But then I watched Angel Whispers. This movie is awful, and the only reason it's not on my worst of list is because of Carrie If not for her, it would definitely be top 5 worst. One of the writers of Angel Whispers is the same person who wrote Daughter and Guilty, 2 films that are in the top 5 worst. Or should I say bottom 5. Never mind. The more I think about it, the more tempted I am to move this from disappointed to worst. So for the sake of Carrie, I'll just leave it here. Thank you for watching. We're directed by John Woo and starred Zhang Ji. God damn it. We're directed by what? Oh.